Here we go, boys.
Anyone can play the game while you listen.
What's going on here?
This ragtag crew of adventurers is covering the problems of the average player.
Where should I begin?
Discussing the home brews, modules, and the latest content for all things D&D.
What in God's holy name are you blathering about?
It's Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything.
What you're feeling is so normal and perfectly natural.
With your host, the Pirate Captain.
Everybody loves me, and I don't know why. I'm an asshole. I really am. The pirate captain is a dick.
Chef Bolgg.
Let me take a couple steps back so I can, really get this point across.
It's bullshit!
And Loke the Bard.
Instead of making a deal with Cthulhu or, the greater devil, you found an imp who was willing to give you dark vision in exchange for a gallon of blood.
With a little mayhem, mischief, and a bit of bardic charisma, it's time for the show.
Yarr, that'd be right. We're back at it again. Most of us here, though. Will he get it working? Probably not. But that's okay. It's me, the Pirate Captain, along with me bestest buddies, Bolgg.
Hey, that's me. Hooray.
Yeah, they can't see you, bud, but it's good that you're here. And Loke the Bard.
Yo.
And, of course, Mr. Producer.
How's it going, guys?
And we are Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything on our Labor Day special. No unions here.
Live.
There's no unions on this ship. None whatsoever. And yes, we are live on YouTube. This is fun.
Actually, Captain, you signed this?
Yeah.
We Bolgg and I have decided to unionize.
Nope. No unions on this boat. There's a mutiny request right there is what that is.
It is strike.
You and everybody else, all right? Look, I run a tight ship, and I'm not letting y'all strike. This is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. I am the titular Pirate Captain, along with my bestest buddies. And now we got to get through this mandatory podcast stuff that you always have to do, the live broadcast, things like that. Like, hey, head over to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything Facebook page. Make sure you like and subscribe to all our content, whether it's the Facebook page, the YouTube page, maybe even the podcast where you're catching this one right now. There's so much to get into today, but I want to make sure that we bump through all of that. We were just waiting for the Chef Bolgg, and when I'm looking at him on my screen, he's below me, to wherever he may be. He is actually. I don't even think he's in the chat anymore. I think he just decided to bounce out.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're here?
Yeah.
Well, it's not showing up on the it doesn't show you on the live stream feed. So maybe
That is very strange. But oh well.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here, guys. I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, you're the fan favorite character, except for that one time that you were a dick, and then you see that's the thing. I love the fact that we actually got to call you out for once for being the dick and not me. And it's like, he's the dick, not the Pirate Captain. But enough of that. We got to get into it because a lot to get into today. Mainly the fact that it's a Labor Day special. We really want to make sure that we talk about jobs, professions, and everything else in D&D because it's a little known topic. Like having a job as maybe a farmer. We actually have one of the. I really wish we could get him on. It would be really cool to have. And we normally don't call players out by their names. We usually give them their nicknames. But I tell you, Andy would be really good to talk about the.
He would be Ron the farmer, probably.
He'd probably be Ron the farmer, the greatest character in D&D. He was the most plain character, had base stats everywhere you could be. Straight tens. And he
rolled. That's the way they happen to come out.
And he played it out as Ron the farmer. And it's just like that episode of DBZ when the farmer tries to take on Raditz. And it's just like everything that he tried to do was just like, kind of average. So Andy would be honestly great to have around here. So, but jobs and professions when it comes to D&D, I don't think that we actually give it enough credit for what it could be, because I think having a job in D&D is a side way to make gold, because the only other way you make gold, your main job is an adventurer, but what does that really pay? Like, it actually pays pretty poorly.
Yeah. And even some classes, like, okay, you are a cleric, you may be a professional priest for your particular church, but not all clerics have to be the professional priest. I mean, you could be the Ned Flanders of your
Diddly diddly
town,
diddly, neighbor.
who is just completely devout, a firm believer, and your God has blessed you with the magic, doesn't mean you have to be a priest. You could be a blacksmith. You could be selling left-handed tools or whatever.
I mean,
Ned Flanders does.
I feel like you've already thought this way too through having a Ned Flanders cleric character.
Yeah, actually, I have actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having him as a forge cleric would be really cool because a forge cleric would be your job is in the forge and stuff like that. It's actually my favorite cleric. I was upset that they didn't make a appearance in BG3, but having a job like what would I still hope that we'll may get into BG3 later because there is something I would rather see than all of that. But thinking about it, like what would you have, like what would your job be as a barbarian though? Because really adventure is the only thing, because you're a hunter gatherer for a nomadic clan usually. Like there's really not a whole lot that you would see. So like what job would a barbarian honestly have though? Like other than like angry fighter, and then you would be a fighter at that point.
But you look at the background there, who's like, a barbarian sailor, a Viking, his background may be sailor, that may be his job as a
pillage and plunder. But I mean, is Viking really a job, or is that more of just like a class?
No, but I mean, his background wise, it would be sailor.
Well, Viking is actually historically a job. Yes,
I mean
the Norse people being a Viking was a job.
Yeah,
because they had farmers, they had shaman, they had priests, they had all the regular jobs that an ancient people would have. It's just they had also Vikings.
I guess.
In fact, they had mercenary Vikings. They were called Yums Vikings. So
yeah, but that's kind of like a stretch for a job. I don't know. Like, are
it's
you
the
really
same
going to
as
put that
being a
on the
mercenary,
resume,
a
like
soldier or something like that?
You're working at Yield McDonald's, and like I was like, all right, we see that you worked at McDonald's and you worked on Yield Farms. Have you thought about being a Viking as the Viking career counselor for a barbarian? I could imagine that guy just like, what do you want to be? Well, I'm actually really good with tools and could build great things. Viking. Well, I actually have great healing abilities. I've actually healed a lot of our young. Viking. I couldn't imagine the barbarian career counselor as anything else. What is the one job you qualify for? Viking. What about nobleman? I'm rich. I have a lot of good connections with the city. Viking. Actually, you know what? That could probably be the greatest job ever. Instead of being a Viking, you're actually a barbarian career counselor. Oh man, now I get 2 Bolgs on here. Oh man, as if one wasn't bad enough. He's already put too many holes in me ship. But I don't like
it keeps crashing, so I'm just going to leave it and not try to have the camera. So sorry, I'm cameraless today.
So I mean, let's go look at the backgrounds for D&D, and like try to like figure out like Viking. You got
that's a tough example.
Yeah, that's a tough.
But
I
like
wouldn't even say it's a tough
using
example.
a sailor, but like, I mean,
I'm trying to get the D&D wiki, the one that
I've got one up here. They're.
So I just want to use the one that we always use.
The priests. Okay, if you took an acolyte background, you're probably a professional priest.
Yeah, I want to stay with. Yeah, I'm gonna focus here on the commons. Anthropologist. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take that one out because that's. I'm trying to think of what's more into the book. That one seems more
archaeologist, adopted.
I like marine. So like what if you're a hermit?
Dissenter.
What if you're like just a hermit or something like that? Like that one to me is kind of weird.
A hermit is kind of like your retiree. He had to have money to become a hermit, or had.
They're your doomsday preppers that live off the land.
Yeah.
I just think they're more of like the Clint Eastwood stay off my lawn kind of guys. Just like stay off my lawn, sir. We're out in the middle of a field. It's still my lawn. Aren't you the Viking career counselor?
Because even a hermit's got to have food and water and some form of a roof. I mean,
and there's some
you can make a homeless, jobless, adventurer. One of my favorite adventures recently that I played in one of our buddies' campaigns. was the literal murder hobo is the way he was designed to be. He literally was homeless. He slept in the barn of the local brewer.
Yeah.
Because he was a homeless guy.
Right.
The party spent a lot of their time, trying to get him to bathe because he stunk because he was homeless.
Yeah, so I guess I could be like a criminal, like a hermit, wanderer could be that one. But it like in some of these, I'm trying to like this isn't using the D&D wiki, which is usually our source for everything. Investigator, that one's in the SCAG. Guild merchant, guild artisan. So these are all jobs that you could definitely have. But like, how would you be like being like when I think of barbarians, and not to pick on barbarians, I think they're a cool class, but what kind of real job does barbarians usually have? Like outside of like, because they're usually in the nomadic tribes. Like, let me see if I can't pull up the class.
They would be, in barbarian tribes, hunter, gatherer, shaman.
And that's assuming that's that type of barbarian. Like barbarian is just the name given to the class when it could be what you said, an angry fighter, somebody who taps into a primal rage in order to, fight.
Yeah.
So
if he's a city dweller who just happens to have.
So let me throw this one at you. Does that mean every dude with a wife beater that beats his wife is a barbarian?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I was on the same page because it just seems like you go down to the drunk tank and every guy in there is a barbarian. Does that make me a wizard when I light a lighter?
No.
I mean, if you lit a lighter back then, yeah, probably.
Yeah, they burn you alive.
I just it's kind of weird to think of a barbarian having a job. I'm not saying barbarians can have jobs, but I'm telling you, like what you go back to barbarian career counselor and he's like, have you thought about Viking?
Yeah. But now, like I said, it comes down to what are you thinking of as your barbarian? It's the character's backstory. The character, is he the nerd rage barbarian who, is not living the tribal life, or is he the tribal barbarian who, is living with nomadic people, sleeping in a tent, following the
what
buffalo?
Do we call my character?
Yeah, you're not. That doesn't mean anything. You don't really
Chef?
cook anything. You don't really cook anything. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like it's
Chef Bolgg.
Look,
it's chef. I have a job. It's chef.
That's not a job. That's you barely do that.
It's
you
a
barely
career
cook
path.
anything. It's.
I have a restaurant.
We really should have had you go talk to the barbarian career counselor. I mean, it's not like you have a great and
Chef Ramsay's it. He gets angry in the kitchen. That's
Chef Ramsay's a barbarian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are you? I'm an idiot sandwich. I don't know. I just don't. I don't.
Well, yeah. And
all right, you gotta be there. I can't argue with that one.
Where your class doesn't necessarily equate to your profession or your job.
No, it's trying to think about. It's not saying that your class equates to your job. I mean, because it's very hard to be a swashbuckler and a pirate captain. I mean, it's kind of you gotta be both. It's more along.
But see, as a swashbuckler, you could be a pirate, or you could be one of the musketeers in the Queen's Guard.
I would rather die than be in the Queen's Guard because that's how you.
The only class that kind of has its hands tied to its job is bard,
cleric.
Well, even the bards, like, there's the College of Whispers bards who are really, James Bond.
Well, or I wouldn't even say College of Whispers bard, just any bard. What's your job? Well, I write down this. The captain cannot write or read. He is that much of an idiot. So my whole job in life is I'm his captain's log, like Captain Kirk. I'm Stargate 3472173, whatever. Are you getting all this? So those are just a bunch of random numbers. It's the 5th of May. Okay, we'll write that down. And you're sitting there and you're talking to him. And hey, so what's your job? Well, I write down what the pirate captain thinks. It's hey, wait, that's what Mr. Producer does.
It's a stressful job.
It is it's so easy. It's not like I say anything that inept. Wait a minute.
Yes.
I hate all of you. I I guess being a bard, being a bard and a cleric really doesn't lock you in. Like, I think it would honestly be harder to find a job as a barbarian, barbarian career counselor. Like, as a fighter, what do? You're pretty much an adventurer already, or you could be a gladiator or something cool
or
like
a
that.
city guard, or
City guard would be good.
army officer, or
town drunk.
Can you imagine? Could you imagine the barbarian being the city guard? He just gets angry and he just like starts flipping stands. You didn't pay your taxes, and just throws everything in. Oh man, I could actually make it. I'm thinking. I have a whole idea now of just like a campaign.
No littering. Picks them up and throws them in the trash can.
Just yeets them. Man, barbarian actually has a lot of possibilities in the fun jobs it can have.
Yeah, and that's something the DM side they should think of when you're building your campaigns is, your city guards, they're going to be fighters and barbarians and knights and whatever. Maybe give them some of those characteristics when you get in a fight with the city guard.
It's kind of
something as a player you need to think about as well. What are you doing with your downtime? Because that's where Bolgg, like the chef and Chef Bolgg came from.
Yeah.
Well, I found a chef's hat, decided I was going to sit down and learn how to be a chef in my downtime.
That doesn't make you a chef, bud. Like, I just want you to know, like, I've eaten your food and I've nearly died every time that I've eaten it.
Well,
and that one time that I didn't die
rotten.
Was because you got to cook fresh food.
Those are for ghouls, not for you.
Yeah. We've talked about this fresh
and
food.
Humans aren't supposed to eat other humanoids. That's
I'm telling him that, but he does. He is the one guy on the ship that is the cook. That is his whole goal in life, is to make sure that I don't die as the captain. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to steer the ship into a rock. Mostly, I am mostly dead. I'm pretty sure my bunghole is never going to be right again. But that's besides the point.
You really enjoyed that stew with your leg meat in it. I want you to know.
I wish you would have told me it was my leg meat. It would have been that much simple. If you'd have said, hey, this has your leg in it, bud, I probably wouldn't have eaten it. And now I'm a cannibal. I think that
are you a cannibal if you eat your own leg?
More like recycling.
I am recycling. We're not letting anything go to waste here on this ship. All right. Everybody eat up. All right. Lick the bowl dry. You never know when we're hitting port again. Sir, we've been docked at port for 3 days now. Yeah, but we never know when we're getting off the boat. You just left just like an hour ago. No one needs a smart ass there, Mr. Bard.
Where's the cabin boy Jimmy?
We didn't need Jimmy again, dude. Oh, God dang it. You know how hard it is to recruit for that? I'm having to recruit Vikings again. I think with jobs, like when you should have a job like as your character, unless you're like a kid. And I've played kid characters before, which is a little awkward, but even kids could have jobs. I mean, back in the day, kids were farmhands and stuff like that. Like, we're that far in the future that we don't have to worry about that. But I think kids with jobs are like kid characters having a job is kind of like, it could or couldn't be. But unless you take the background of a noble, and I don't like taking the background of noble. I also don't like players in my campaigns taking the background of noble, because it's like, why are you being an adventurer? Oh, well, I'm looking for this sense of adventure.
But even a noble could be the job. If you're the son of the mayor or the, what level of noble you are, a knight.
I would, if you're going to be the son of let's say the noble is the background, or you're trying to make that into the job. Charlatan honestly would be your job, because you're there to schmooze and booze potential people to vote for whoever it is, or bring into power whoever it is you're trying to bring it in. So if you're like, let's say it is a mayor or a sheriff or something like that.
That could be a way to do it.
So
or if you're in the landed gentry type, nobility, where you're just,
your job could be politician.
Give me the rent.
I mean, politician is, but even
slumlord from.
I don't think you should be able to be a politician you can be a politician, but you can't be a politician and a noble. Like, I think you have to be one or the two.
Well,
like,
the noble is just the background. Like, you grew up with a silver spoon and then decided to be a politician.
But then why would you go be an adventurer? Like, that one to me.
Maybe you didn't have a choice. Maybe they put a tadpole in your brain,
I don't think so. That story seems really weird and very congruent to bring everybody together and just make a full story that would take probably multiple days of a playthrough and just random restarts because you just want to see what it's like to do it. That just seems really crazy. Why would you do that? I don't like being a noble. I don't know. Like I think it's just it's a cop out job for players because it just kind of go for it.
Part
Man.
of that, when you're doing the world building, we know what the nobles are like in most of our history here, but in this world, maybe the nobles are different. Maybe you get assigned as a noble, you're required to slay X number of monsters a year or something to keep your title,
but that would be. I would hire people out for that. Like if I'm a noble, that's kind of like my thing is I'm more of like the planner of things. Like like when I'm thinking of nobles, I'm thinking of that's commoner stuff. And that's why I don't like them in my campaigns and stuff like that because in
a fantasy campaign, the idea that a noble, the divine right of kings, they were chosen by God to be better than everybody. Well, in a fantasy D&D style campaign where the gods actually do interact with people, there's whole campaign settings based on giving the nobles special powers and abilities because they were chosen by God, like the old birthright campaign setting. I used to love because to be a noble, you had to have the noble bloodline that would get basically one of their gods died or whatever.
Right.
And everybody that was on that battlefield got touched with a little bit of that divine power. And so they interbred to keep that divine power in their family bloodlines. And they would each get one extra special, which would, it would be like a cantrip now. It wasn't a big, huge power. But they got
as long as they take -1 to either like their constitution or their intelligence for being inbred, I'm fine with that.
That could be part of your work. And part of your world building and requirements.
It's also like what kind of kingdom that we're talking about here. Like a regular kingdom, the noble you're thinking of is what is probably going to be. But if you're in like a military run kingdom or a like theocracy run kingdom, the nobles are going to be very different. It's going to be based on merit rather than just being born and bred noble.
All right.
So it could very well be that they have a knightly background.
You understand wealth and power and privilege. You carry a noble title and your family owns land, collects taxes, and wields significant political influence. That right there already tells me I don't need to do anything as a noble. I have people that do it for me. And that right there just negates your argument because that is literally the description. I'm reading it from here from the D&D 5th edition.
Your family owns. So if your dad
you might be pampered aristocrat and familiar with a worker, comfort, former merchant just elevated to the nobility, or a disinherited scoundrel and disappropriate sense of entitlement, or you could be honest, hardworking landowner who cares deeply about the people who live with and work on your land, keenly aware of your responsibility to them.
There you go.
But yet again, it's all of look. I have other people to do this job for me. I think that's all the start of there.
But if you're the third son of the very minor noble from some small town, you may not have those extra. You were raised with, you had servants, but when you came of age, it's like, go get a job, kid.
I mean, even then, like
you're a landlord and you make all your money off of, selling cheap housing to the poor.
Give me the rent.
Yep. And then boom, somebody comes and takes out your buildings. Now you got to go and find out who, and it just so happens there's a group of adventurers also, trying to figure out who.
Yet again, as a noble, I have money, I have tools and resources at my stuff.
And if you've worked with your group, the party, maybe this party is your hired help.
Yeah, but like I said, they're the hired help. I'm trying to encompass the idea of the noble. I don't like taking it. Now there is the variant knight, which I think knight should honestly be either part of the city guard or its own background, and that one kind of like varies into it. But
think of your own character where you were the servant to the wild mage.
No, he wasn't.
No, but the wild mage was. And that's why you were a servant to him.
Yeah. but even still, like he was inept from the start. Like he
Yes.
ended up like
Well, he did end up killing half the party.
Yeah, and that's always fun.
He's a wild mage.
I think noble as a job and as anything into a D&D campaign should not be a thing. It's not that it should be a thing. Like I just don't see the reason for it. There's other things out there. Like if you're gonna have a job in D&D, I think that you like crafter, city watch, even the charlatan's more of a job than being a noble because you're trying to smooze and booze. Like I just don't see, and I don't see nobles being a nobleman as a job is you're more along the lines of
like any background though. You've got to work one with the DM and the two with the party to make it work.
We're not using that
your
excuse here. We're defining it as it is because the DM trumps all rule is a common argument that we use to negate things that we just don't
I'm
like.
not saying that the DM kick it out, but you've got to always even if you are playing the traditional cleric who is a priest for your church, even that needs to be worked out with your DM.
That's fine, but that can't be.
He may say no, you can't be an actual member of the clergy. You have to be a heretic.
Like I said, that's fine, but that can't be an excuse every time that we want to have this argument. Well, it's at the end of the DM.
How about this? You're a noble because you're a former adventurer who did something great for the city, got raised to nobility, and now you feel the call of adventure after becoming fat and lazy, and you want to get back to where you were.
All right, you knew where I was getting ready to go.
Or you're a charlatan who's pretending to be a noble, not a noble at all, but your party thinks you're a noble.
Well, then you're not a noble. Okay, but then you're not a noble. You're a charlatan. And I'm very fine with keeping things away from your party on your character sheet, like not telling people what your job class is. In fact, I really don't think that you should tell people what your class is in D&D. Like you should you shouldn't go out and say I'm a cleric. You say, well, I'm a holy man. Something like that would be, to me, is a lot better. But that's the conversation for another time.
Have you seen Schitt's Creek?
No.
Basically, high power, high money family that loses everything. Boom, there's your noble background.
Yeah, but you're no longer a nobleman at that point.
If you still have the title.
Like, are you really a nobleman though if you don't have that title? Like if you're no longer there, like you don't have that power, because that's the idea of the nobleman.
You're still recognized as a noble. That doesn't mean people respect you.
It's the idea of the job though. Like it's not really a job. Like to me, as a nobleman, your job, I have other people that do the job for me.
You're right. But the noble background is just that, where you came from, not necessarily who you are. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I just don't see it playing well into the job. Like I just don't like. It's not like the barbarian who got to be a Viking career counselor.
Yeah, but like a nobleman who's also a fighter may, in fact, be a knight as their job.
I think that knight should, and honestly, I would say that knight should be its own background. Like I don't like it being a variant of the noble. Like I get it that most knights are kind of considered noblemen. If you're thinking about pure fantasy.
Historically in the real world, you had to be a noble to be a knight. There was no.
Yeah.
It was an absolute. It was kind of like having to have a medical degree to be a doctor in America.
Well, I mean, you used to actually go to see the barber to get your medical and dentistry, so you didn't really need one. I think that the knight's an actual great job, and that anybody could be a knight, because you don't have to be, especially in D&D. I think this is a great concept of like being a knight. You don't have to be a plate wearer or somebody, you're not coming in on a horse and stuff. You could be a mage knight and stuff like that. Like being a wizard as a knight would be really cool. And so that to me is an actual job, because what are you doing?
Right. But the title of knight has to have money and power behind it. You can't just walk into a town and go, I'm a knight, and have people believe you.
I'm going to call Bull on that one, because if you've ever seen Fire Force, the anime, Arthur is a knight without actually being a knight.
And who believes him? Not a goddamn person.
I do. Arthur's the OG in that story. So I'm going to throw that one out there. I just don't think that noble is a job. Like it's a job to tell other people what to do, but it's just not a job.
It's a job. It's a job in the way that being independently wealthy is a job.
I think that's
Bruce Wayne would tell you he's got a job. He don't have a job. He just owns everything.
Yeah, you just make some money off the interest. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see it as being it's generally a job. Like it just to me, it doesn't make sense for what it does. So like if you think like I don't like, let's go into another one that's probably not a job, the haunted one. That one just says, look, you're the freaking kid in the back of the class that, just sits there and he stares at you with the wide eyes. And you're like, hey man, what's happening? And he goes, I've seen your death. And you're like, this is why you get beat up in school. Like
You
that.
mean
Like
most kids in America right now?
no, not everybody gets beat up in school. But the haunted one, like it's just
that's some backgrounds don't translate directly to a job.
Yeah.
That's one that's not a job but you could probably, you could craft it into one in a fantasy world where,
what are you, the Scooby-Doo villains in your own camp, in your own world?
No, but like the more like a fortune teller type seance, speak with the dead.
We have a better name for that. We have a better name for the fortune teller. We called it the charlatan because they're a goddamn scam artist.
Yes, in our world, yes, but in the D&D world,
I think the haunted one.
The fortune teller could be real, and if I'm going to put be a fortune teller, if the ghosts
haunted one as a divination wizard, absolutely is a fortune teller who has seen some shit.
I don't think
in the future and is not happy about it.
I think the haunted one, if I'm going to make it into a job, I'm going the Scooby-Doo route. I'm saying it's somebody that hangs around in like properties that is trying to buy. It's actually a nobleman. It's a subclass into the background as a nobleman. It's just some dude in a creeper mask that's running around. He's like, stay away from my property. Boogie boogie or whatever. I don't know.
Are you having people come on your property lately that've been bugging you?
Yeah, there's a whole theme today. There's a whole
get off my lawn.
There is a whole long story I could get into about these guys that for those of you who are listening now, I host a radio show, and the area that I live in now, they had these guys coming around that were pest control guys, and it's actually a scam that's all around the country. Like there actually is a company that is the name that they were saying that they were, but they're like, here, we offer pest control in your area. And you're like, you guys are located like an hour on either side of me. There's no way you're in my area doing pest control. So yeah, I did actually have a story of that. I don't know, but I think the haunted one as a Scooby-Doo villain would actually be funny as hell. But like hermit, you really don't need a job. You can just live in a hovel. When I think of like hermit, if I want to say like a job,
the job would be beggar basically.
Yeah, but even then I wouldn't even say beggar, because if you think about it, if you
or retiree,
or because I was thinking of like Toph from Korra. I was just thinking of Toph from Korra, from not from her young version in Avatar, but in Korra, where she was like living in the swamp, kind of like a
it could also be somebody who's a hunter.
Yeah, I can
living in a cabin in the woods.
That would be a hermit. That would be a really cool like job for like a Viking like hunter like deal, like just the guy that's like been ostracized by his clan. That's actually a really cool like theme for a character.
I mean, modern day, you could just do one of those guys who never leaves their house and has a job online, like sales or telemarketing.
Yeah, you're going to be useful in the adventure right there. Like, what do you do? I don't leave the house. I'm getting Uber Eats here, and that's
you're
it.
Forced out of your house.
Nah, yeah, it's kind of a weird setting for like a modern campaign. Like, I don't like
I don't like modern campaigns myself.
Yeah, they're I don't mind like the sci-fi and stuff, but I'm with you, like trying to like get modern eras to like translate well. It can be done in like one shots, but it's hard to do like full campaigns.
Who's an adventurer in the real world? How many people have adventurer as their job in the real world?
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, like people who go on like hikes and stuff like
nobles.
that. Yeah, the rich nobles.
The rich nobles. Exactly.
And now we're back at it again.
Yes, there are probably some people in the real world who that is their job. The like people out looking for Atlantis or whatever in the on their yachts.
Hey,
but
I mean, they tried finding the Titanic and that didn't go over very well.
Yeah. That is a very rare job in the modern world.
Yeah, it's just I don't. Nobody's jacked loose. Like everybody's only trying to like you're either trying to go to space or you go to the bottom of the sea. Like you're trying to figure that out. But there's like with backgrounds and stuff like that. I think your background is technically your job. Like the fact that
Sometimes.
yeah, for the most part, sometimes definitely not noble, or Fey Lost or Haunted One. Like those are to me are stretches. But when you go back to the classes themselves, like the bard is kind of its own.
The bard could be a job, or he could go with his background and
Yeah. Well, the entertainer is a background.
Yeah.
So
if the bard taking the entertainment background is kind of a waste in 5e.
I think backgrounds in general in 5e are kind of a waste. Like they're really like the only thing they really provide you with is every now and then one of them provides a great little feature like sailor and stuff like that, or noble as it is. But you're really only taking it for the extra proficiencies at this point. Like it really makes little difference in what you do.
Some of them work very well with what the what is it, the outcast, outlander. It's the outlander background, where you basically ruin all survival campaigns by taking that. Because they automatically find food and water.
Yeah. Not to go against what I said earlier, but that one's kind of like one of those DM rules of like, you're not going to be this. Like, it's kind of like the noble. I really don't think as a DM, and as much as I hate that rule, I really do, of saying, no, you can't. Like, it just makes no sense of why you're trying to be an adventurer. All of a sudden, you just found a sense of urgency. And I'm not saying that all nobles are pompous and like they just have little to care or little want to do adventures and stuff like that. I think the benefits that it provides make it more awkward for a campaign down the line. Like you're already known, and so you're trying to like build up as an adventurer. I guess it all depends upon the story too.
Yeah, so, and that's where, like I was saying before, you have to work it out ahead of time. You were born and raised a noble, but your family was overthrown, so you no longer have the power, authority, or wealth.
But
that would still be your background because that's what you were before. I think that's the most common way you see noble adventurers in parties, is where they're trying to get back.
That or the bored rich kid wanting to go out and feel a sense of adventure.
I'm not dealing with bored rich kids anymore. I did it once. It was a fun character. It was fun character concept, but it was miserable. What about jobs that certain classes can't have? Like we've talked about what different and we haven't really talked about all the classes either of like what they could have, but I was thinking about it more along the lines of like what they can't have. Can you really see a monk being like a nobleman or anything like that? Because it kind of like breaks away from the ideas in the monastic traditions.
Yeah, but that most monks actually were nobles, second or third sons. They didn't take peasants in the old day. You had to be able to read and write and be.
A lot of the monasteries would teach you that too, though. So they would teach you the Latin and stuff like that. But we're thinking about it in the sense of like reality versus
reality, medieval times,
which is
the peasant farmer couldn't decide he wanted to be a monk,
right,
and go to the temple. It would normally be the nobles' kids that went and became monks.
Would you really send your good kid off to go be a noble, or if you're
be a monk?
To be a monk, like you probably send like the little turd head kid and stuff like that. The one that you're like, you're just really not going to go anywhere. So you can either go be a monk.
That explains a lot of history if you look into the religious side of things.
Yeah, I'll show Dad.
But
I'll just become.
There are some jobs like. If you are a priest of law and order, cleric type person, probably don't want a criminal as your job.
Probably. Well, I don't know. Yeah, because I guess that would make sense. Like you really can't. You really don't want to be that guy that's like, all right, everybody's got to do the right. Well, hold on there, Mr. Oh, you're going to be a person of good things. And we're going to sit here and say that we don't know that. Yeah. Nice try. Priests can still be
Yeah, or
criminals.
especially the paladins, whose
That
oath
one, okay.
prevent-
That one,
yeah.
that one, I'm going to give you the paladins. Well, I mean, but there
I
are
mean,
paladins that
It
are.
depends on the oath of the obviously. I mean,
And it also depends on the crime.
vengeance paladin, you could probably get away with a lot more than a oath of the crown.
Something that's been something that's been annoying me about paladins, and I was thinking about this when I was playing BG3, and this is kind of a little off topic from the job, but it could kind of like circle back into it, is the fact that paladins don't have, like, when you become a cleric, you pick like a god almost instantly, and as a paladin you should also have like that pick of a god, and it just isn't that big of a deal, because like you're saying, it would match on what you do. Like if your god is the god of trickery or like thieving and stuff like that, you would want to be like more like, I'm stealing, I'm a criminal or something like that. But
Yes. That was the old edition paladins, that's the way they were. New edition, it is completely based on the oath. And the oath may not have a divine tie at all. I don't personally like that. I think the paladin should have a divine tie.
Yeah, I like this.
Well, I think it's to separate clerics and paladins, because they're both faith based in the old system. So it's like the cleric is actually divine, power and stuff like that. The paladin gets it all from strength of conviction,
right?
But like, you can make an absolutely silly reason to be a paladin. Maybe your job is a chef, but you're a vengeance paladin against everybody who said your food was shit.
Nah, that would be ridiculous. No one would believe that. That just seems kind of crazy.
No soup for you.
Oh man, that's a good shit. That was a good episode.
Soup Nazi was absolutely a vengeance paladin.
I don't think he was a vengeance paladin. I think he was just a cleric with a bone to pick. I just don't see like the paladin. Like what are you really gonna have? What job are you really gonna have as a paladin? Like, it just makes sense to what you do. Like, you're obviously, like, it does depend upon your oath, and I think that's the territory you get into now. Is like, how do you find the love for this? How do you find the love for these campaign, or the love for the character and it's what its job does based on its class? Like, sometimes the classes, you really feel like you're shoehorned into things. So how do you sit there and justify it to yourself? Like, I just don't see playing a paladin and being something that's not a fighter kind of like background or job, something like that. Like, maybe being an athlete or a soldier or things like that. Like, yeah, that's where I'm getting at, versus like,
but
you're going to be an outlander paladin. It's just kind of weird. It's not to say that it doesn't happen. It's just kind of weird.
Again, we're just equating jobs to backgrounds, but that's not what a job is.
Yeah, like, but that's, I mean,
like a paladin who's, maybe he was a scribe who's read the holy books, not enough to be a priest, but he's read them and happens to just be a really good fighter.
But I think with the backgrounds and stuff like that, it kind of gives you that basis to go off of. And it's honestly what background should be, is like jobs. Like, they change it.
Well, they're giving you tools to build your character with, and part of that building process, you should be a job should be something you're shaping. How does your character survive, or how has he survived to this point, money wise, income wise? Should be part of your building of the character.
Because farmer is not a background, and not a background.
You could do that. You could do that with like Outlander and something like that. Like,
yeah, but it's not a background.
There's another one. Yeah, Outlander is a background.
Well, no, farmer is not a background.
No, but you could also
peasant's not a background.
Yeah, but you're all peasant. Urchin and peasant, same thing.
No, urchin's worse than peasant. Urchin is
that's the city homeless.
Yeah,
I mean, that would still be a peasant. You could be one and the other.
Peasants still have a means to survive that doesn't imply criminal actions. You're not a criminal per se, because you're not doing it.
So now you're a criminal if you're home. Now you're a criminal if you're an urchin.
I think most of the farmer, you do something like folk hero or
yeah, I don't. And that one, to me, that one is honestly a stretch, kind of like nobleman being a job, the folk hero and stuff like that. Like, what do you just randomly show up? I think you should be able to, I think by level 10, you should get the folk hero as a background naturally. Because by level 10, you should be known throughout the world and throughout the country and stuff like that, or wherever you're at, because you're kind of like that kind of hero. So that one, you shouldn't be able to take folk
Well, that
hero
would be
at the start.
that would be hero, where a folk hero like Johnny Appleseed,
No,
a farming hero, is not.
you come on,
You
humble.
know,
You
your
become from a
whole
humble,
deal is.
hold on, I'm reading it for you there. You come from a humble social rank, but you are destined for so much more. Already the people of your village regard you as their champion, and your destiny calls you. So you killed a couple goblins, and now you're the champion of your village. But I think like I said, I think you should grow into the folk hero title. Like you can grow into that one naturally and like become maybe it is like folk hero is like level 6. And then level 10, it's like hero. And then it's like, savior is like level 16, where it's like
that was something
you're
else
building
that
up.
the old editions, probably Google it and probably pull it up, that each level had a title that went with it. Where like level 9, you became a lord.
Yeah.
And like level 25, you became a monarch or something.
Well, and that's what I want to get at too, is that that what I would see, like, and I would honestly give it the same treatment for noble too. Like as you kind of get gold and influence, like you could grow into that title, into that job.
And there was, job wise, the druid circles in the old editions, there was only allowed to be one arch druid.
Yep.
In the world at a time, and so if you were one level less, you were stuck until you either killed that arch druid, the evil way to do it, or they got promoted. They went up a level, or they went.
What happened to him? He fell down the stairs and broke his neck. I don't know. He's at the top of the stairs. He fell up the stairs and broke his neck. It's weird. Gravity, just be careful.
Right?
Gravity
he
over
does
here
mysterious things all the time.
Yeah. I thought it was a ploy. I thought he was doing some kind of weird ritual dance when I pushed him. I mean, he fell up the stairs. Gravity. It's Sir Isaac Newton hasn't invented it yet. So there are like, I think there's like titles and jobs that you can kind of grow into. Like guild artisan, maybe to get like you have guild merchant, guild artisan, and then maybe guild master, which would be really cool, especially when you bring in like the guild, the Ravnica ones. Where there was like all the special like magics and stuff like that. Like you could just grow into those titles and those jobs and stuff as you level, would be really cool and something to incorporate into a campaign where you're like, okay, you're going to start out as for an adventurers guild. So now you start out as a acolyte or something like that. And then you build up as you go through, and then your title, you get the benefits of these other backgrounds or like more bonuses to your title and stuff like that.
Yeah. And the
Fable
bad
really
crafting system makes jobs
more
difficult as well, because the fact that you take blacksmithing as say that you took a background specifically to get the guild artisan blacksmithing skill.
Yeah.
You don't start out as an apprentice blacksmith and at a certain level become a journeyman and at a certain level become a master. You are a blacksmith your entire D&D campaign career. So the system isn't in the tools of D&D to make you a better blacksmith over time. I guess technically your proficiency goes up, but that's.
So how do you? So you now as a DM, we've all DM'd here. We all have created things. How do you as a DM? How do you make it to where a level system for your thing? Like, how is it that they got to spend so much time during their downtime? Do they got to like, what do the players have to do to increase this? Because I think they should be able to.
So, like I said before, Bolgg became a chef. It wasn't when I started that campaign, I was Bolgg the Brutal. I was not Chef Bolgg. I was a Outlander, barbarian. We went into a dungeon and I found a chef's hat, and that hat never left my head after that point. And it was in my downtime that I asked the DM, hey, can I learn how to use, chef's utensils? And he said, sure. During your downtime, give me a series of rolls, and over time, you'll become proficient with those tools. Well, I nailed those rolls and I became Chef Bolgg.
Well, but that's a simple system. So yeah, that'll work right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, how much do you like? How do you designate like how much is enough to learn something? Like how much time do you spend in a skill? Where is it going to be
The
with your
official number is
proficiency?
ridiculous.
No.
I'd have to look it up. I believe it's like 255 days to learn a proficiency or something like that.
That's
It's a huge number that
I wouldn't say it's like a huge number. That's about right.
right.
So do you have
it's
like
a realistic number. I'm not saying that, and just saying that. How many campaigns have that much downtime?
That's I mean, and you're right there. Like that is a true question on that. Is like how much downtime do you have as a campaign to kind of get that? I mean, do you do a time skip or something like that? Like, just kind of like, hey, look, we know we got to do a training arc or something like that.
I also do the lit RPG video game skill book method as well, where you can buy a skill book that has all the knowledge of somebody who's proficient that you can read, and it will give you that skill for a certain amount of gold instantly.
Do you have to have like an intelligence to read that too? Because like just anybody who can't, you'd have to be able to read, right? Like you can't just like pick up a book.
It depends on the book. How much money did you pay for that book?
It's like the manuals that increase your ability scores. I mean, you don't have to be able to read. I mean, Bolg's was literally a drill sergeant that popped out of the book and screamed at him to do things.
I think that you should have to be like, if you're going to get like a skill manual and stuff like that, like you should have to be able to read or something. Like you have to like either have somebody who's just that much of a master teach you,
it's the Matrix style where they're plugging in directly. Magic's plugging directly into your brain. You just have to be able to start the book, whatever the trigger to start the book is. And then it just Matrix uploads. I know Kung Fu.
Do you ever what was the Hugs a Lot Bear, the one you used to put the cassette tape in and it would read to you and stuff like that? That's what I'm kind of seeing is
the cheaper books. That may be the way it is.
That's what I'm seeing. Hold on, I gotta find that because that's
Teddy Ruxpin.
Teddy Ruxpin. Oh man.
So there's two ways we're training. The PHB, it's 250 days for 1 gold piece a day.
Off the top of my head, I was 5 days off. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. In Xanthars, it's 10 work weeks. Reduced by the character's intelligence modifier for 25 gold per work week.
See, there you go. So it isn't modified. So intelligence isn't a dumb stat, but I mean, only if you're learning from this guy right here. God, these things were creepy. Like look at
those eyes. Those are soulless eyes.
He's looking right through you. All right, he sees me right now. He knows I'm out there trying to keep people off my property. I just. With learning jobs and stuff like that, I think it's like we're saying, it's a very important thing to have in D&D because it really does. It kind of like shapes who you are. Like I'm a natural entertainer. That's my background here in the real world. Like if I had to put what I do right now outside of this podcast, I'm an entertainer. I work in broadcasting. I just want to make people happy, smile, laugh, do all these things. And so we're trying to like figure that out, and I completely lost thought where I was going with that.
Yeah, but that is a very important part of building your character starts out as. Who they wind up as once the adventure starts may be completely different.
Yeah, but I mean that's
swept up in the world of adventure.
That's character growth, though. That happens. Like your character should grow. We've talked about that in previous episodes of like your character should grow with you as you go on into these games. As you go through these challenges and trials and tribulations, and you're like, look, man, I have been doing my best and I love blacksmithing, but man, it's just so aggravating to try and blacksmith out here on the road. There's got to be an easier job out there I can do, or you find a new love for like, oh, well, I was weaving things. I'm just looking at the guild artisans.
You were a blacksmith, and your background said you were a blacksmith's apprentice before you went off adventuring. Now you show up in this town trying to blacksmith. It's like, wait a minute, you're not a licensed guild blacksmith. You can't blacksmith in this town. You have a whole story subplot where you're dealing with the blacksmith guild to get yourself.
You're sitting in the long lines of like the city hall. Like, right, DMV. Oh
the
man.
DMV getting your blacksmith license.
Look, I will take on 3 beholders. Do not make me take on the city hall blacksmithing license again, please, please.
Also, your job does not have to even match your class or your background. I mean, here in the real world, I'm probably with you. I'd probably be entertainer during school. I did band, I did chorus. That was my whole thing. Now I do scheduling for an orthopedic group. It's just a job. It's not necessarily what I want to do.
No,
or even who I am.
But it kind of leans into that. That's, I mean, with this and stuff like that, we already discussed like the class and the thing that goes back to the Viking comments. We already said that. Like, but it's
how many real world people, their job now is office drone.
Yeah.
Losers. It's all right. Being an office drone. There's an important part of that. I actually felt bad when I had somebody coming in to fix my AC, and I was like, you do a real job, and I'm just sitting up here running my mouth for a living. Yeah. And he goes, "Oh, we need entertainers. Trust me." So it's I think that when you go in and you build your character, having a job is a very important part of who you are, what you do, and why you do it, because it's that purpose. Having that purpose for your character. Why are you an adventurer? Why are you doing these things? And I guess that's the biggest reason why.
But not even just the adventurer part. It's who are you? What have you studied? What have you learned throughout your life? Where did you get the skill to pick locks? Where did you get the skill to,
how did you get from point A to point B?
Point A to point B? And a lot of times that's job training. That's where you got here. I used to work for a locksmith, and now I'm a thief picking locks.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking about it. Like, that's why to me it's like it's super important to have these classifications, these distinctions out, so that way you can get into it. Having and that's why my argument against the noble and stuff like that is like, okay, do you kind of see why the noble is really not a job or anything like that?
I personally generally would not play a noble, but I wouldn't disallow it either, because it just has to be worked out, and you have to do it. And so you have whatever the reason in that background, you have to put forth whatever that reason is, that you're not sitting at home eating your bonbons, doing the Peg Bundy sitting on the couch.
And so that's why I want to get at, like, having a job in D&D in your background is just vital. It's vital to kind of like your character creation, because you can honestly say, I kind of like lived off the land as a hermit or an outlander, but eventually you need something from other people. Like there's a part of it that you're gonna, like, you can't do everything. Like, outlanders can't build everything that they need. They can do their best with what they have, but eventually they're gonna need something.
Your starting equipment isn't all sharpened sticks and rocks. If you're carrying an axe, somebody forged that axe for you. You had to buy it. You had to buy that axe with some money somehow, somewhere.
So that's how I'm feeling on that one. Like, I'm not trying to like downplay like some of the other jobs or the noblemen. Granted, like I said, I just don't think it's to me, it's not a job.
But my whole point is that your background and your job don't have to be tied. They don't have to be tied at all.
No, actually, if you're a guild artisan, it probably is. It's probably tied. If you're a guild artisan or a guild merchant, it's kind of in the same way with a sage, essentially. So there are some that are tied.
Okay, Bolgg,
like a fisher is a background. That's
if
probably
you had a
be
character playing in your campaign who had the smithing skill, but no guild artisan type background. Would you let them forge as well and as good as a guild artisan blacksmith? Except in the forge cleric, the forge cleric would be an exception. But like,
I'm with Loke on this one. Like, the guild artisan's going to bring in like things that they have.
They were an apprentice, at least, maybe a master. Depending where they are in their career. They've been trained. They know this skill inside and out. Whereas, the guy who just picked it up watching YouTube videos, is not going to be as good of a blacksmith.
Okay, but then I challenge that with the blacksmith who's renowned and only did it as a hobby and doesn't like selling his work. He likes having them around, but he's the best blacksmith around, but he's not part of any guild.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get that at a level 1 character. Like that's
not a level 1. No, a job comes naturally over time. That's not what I'm saying. A background is who you were. It is not who you are.
I'm going to sit here and disagree with you because, like I said, there are several of them that are just tied into what they do. And I'm telling you, guild artisan is one of them because hey, this is what I do.
Guild artisan. We'll say they were a smith, right? They were a smith. They go out on an adventure. They find a small town where they're able to purchase land. They purchase land, build a house. He starts renting out the house. Now he's a landlord. He doesn't do his smithing anymore.
Then he's no longer a guild artisan. He's a noble. Because it goes back to he owns land.
You can't change the background though. There's no system for changing the background.
Yeah, the system doesn't change.
Nothing says you can't change it either. Show me in the book where it says you can't change your background. I win.
That's on the DM.
So are you gonna let somebody change that?
No. We talked about this earlier in the episode. Yeah. You can't just use that as the excuse. I'm tired of us using that as the excuse. Oh well, the DM, the house rule. No, I'm tired of us using that as an excuse.
Well, if you were the DM and then you had that situation come up, would you allow them to get rid of their old proficiencies and pick up the new ones?
Yeah, I already just said that. I just talked about it earlier that you should be able to grow into the folk hero title, and you get the benefits of it. So yeah.
But not in addition to, they lose those old skills.
No. I just a few little bits ago, I just said that you should be able to grow into the folk hero title.
Yeah.
So it would be the same thing. There are jobs that are just kind of like tied into what you do. If you're a soldier, most likely, yeah, your background is what do you do? I'm a soldier. It's what I do. You don't, yeah, you could be a retiree, a vet and stuff like that, but you're still, it's like one of those things, like once a Marine, always a Marine. There are certain ones that are just actually kind of like tied into what you do. Smuggler. What do? I smuggle stuff. All right. Urchin. I don't really have a job. I'm just a homeless guy. There are some of them that are just tied into it. It's not that it's a bad system or a bad thing, but you can't grow out of it.
But there is not a system in the rules to change or grow. You would be homebrewing it to do it. I mean, there is not like I said, there's no rule saying you can't do it. But there is no rule saying how or when and what qualifies so it'd be all homebrew.
Okay. How many of us play by the full rules as they are written?
No, if I had a character who wanted to change their background, I would not have a problem letting them change.
No.
I let them change proficiencies, class, all kinds, say this character's not working out for me. I'm very liberal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is like there are certain jobs that just kind of like fall into what they do. And like if you're a guild artisan, like if you're a guild merchant, maybe that one's a little different because you're more of like I sell for the guild. I really don't do anything for the guild. So that one kind of is. But eventually, once you start owning land, then you become a nobleman because that's like I read that earlier. It literally says in the description, landowner.
Well, it says your family owned. It doesn't say you.
Well, I mean,
family owned.
And again, we're equating job to background, which I respectfully disagree. It is not the same thing.
I think that's a big part of like your job, though. That's the whole thing.
It's a big part of who you are and who you were, but your job does not have to equate to your background. My job right now does not equate to who I was.
Yeah, Wizards doesn't have a separate line item on the character sheet for job, which
I think it should.
Which means your job could be anything. Your job could be nothing. Your job could just be adventurer.
Yeah,
and that for most people who play D&D, that is their job. They are an adventurer.
No, actually, most of my characters have a job. Like I give them like a job outside.
You're in the like 2% who does that.
I wouldn't even say 2%. I think there's a lot of other people out there that give their characters jobs.
Well, a lot of them they had jobs before becoming adventurers, but once they become an adventurer, that becomes their job.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like it's like having a part-time job essentially.
Yeah.
Like
well,
one of them becomes your full-time and one of them becomes your part-time, whether it's your adventuring full-time or your adventuring part-time.
Well, it
depends on the campaign world you're in too.
Yeah.
With Logue's campaign, my job was as a bounty hunter finding people to punish in the name of the goddess of pain. And I haven't done that once since we started.
Well, then you are very bad at your job, and we really need to look in at your. We really need to look at your time slips right now, because we have been giving you money, and we really need to look at why we have.
Yeah, their method of income has basically become adventurers, even though they refuse to join the Adventurers Guild.
Yeah. So, well, this has been jobs and things that we don't really do because we don't really have jobs. We're just a bunch of entertainers. It is Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. Of course, the heated conversation right there at the end. Aren't you glad you listened all the way through the episode? Now, to say goodbye to all you family friends out there, make sure you follow us, like, subscribe, share everywhere you go. It's as simple as going to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything right there. That's Bolgg with 2 G's, Pirate Captain spelled as is. You can follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe wherever you go. We're going to start doing more of these live streams. Some of the episodes will definitely be live streamed here in the future, so you can hang out with us right here, right now. Drop in your comments, questions, anything you have, or if you just catch this at a later time, you can email us, bolgandpc@gmail.com. That's Bolgg with 2 G's. With that being said, say goodbye, Bolgg.
Goodbye, Bolgg. Also in the comments, just, say who is right here.
Now you can
leave your own opinion.
Yeah, it's me. I'm right. We've gone over this.
We all know the captain's never right.
That's bull. I'm right quite a bit. You're the one that's always wrong.
Yeah, magical dark.
Yeah, exactly. Say goodbye, Loke.
See ya.
Say goodbye, Mr. Producer.
Later, guys.
See you guys.
You've been listening to Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything, featuring Loke the Bard. Like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Chef Bolgg and the Pirate Captain's recipes for everything. Questions, comments, and mutiny requests can be sent to bolgandpc@gmail.com. And as always, happy adventures.